water in the sand in the sea. So he was always happy there. If there was any sort of rivers or lakes or beaches or anything, that's where we would find Jamesy, and anywhere you found Jamesy, you would find me. So I kind of think that's where my journey with the water started. So yeah, that was my experience growing up with water and being near it. It was very natural for us just to be there.
Cool. So it was really natural sort of growing up and all that kind of stuff. And then is there any times in your life where you sort of haven't been as close to water and all that kind of stuff, or swimming? Have you moved away from it at all? Or?
Yeah, well, we did. I mean, obviously when we were younger, we kind of, you know, we had lessons, we learned how to swim and done it all the formal way and things. My brother was a really strong swimmer, and swam competitively. Me and my sister were interested in jumping off piers and skinny dipping. So we never really got into the whole sort of competitive swimming side of things, but still very much in and part of the water. When we were younger, we lived in places like Helensburgh, so we were near the Clyde, Gairloch Head, Port and Capel, and then I kind of hit 18 and moved to the city. So that's kind of when I started my career. I was really focused in my career. I worked for one of the largest marketing companies in the UK. It was really high pressure. It was lots of hours. It was great fun. And it was very much work hard, play hard. And I moved to the city to sort of fit my life around my work, really. That was everything to me at that point. It was a super intense lifestyle that I had and everything that came with it. And I stopped any sort of regular visits to the sea. It just wasn't part of my environment at all. Working and very luckily I met my husband and we got married and I had 2 children. But the water just sort of, it wasn't a focus point anymore. Lots of other things, life took over, I guess. We went on holiday and things, but the pull for the water, although it was always there, never took importance, because obviously the career life and the children and raising 2 children and everything that came with it sort of took precedence over that. So yeah, so I was away from the water for, I would say, about 10 years, 10, 15 years. But then my mental and physical health deteriorated quite rapidly. After I had both my children, I ended up having 2 back surgeries, one of which left me in quite serious trouble, actually. I was in high dependency for 2 months. I couldn't see the children and you had to be rehabilitated afterwards. My son was then diagnosed very quickly afterwards with autism when he was quite young, and I was facing the threat of being made redundant. So it was at that point, I guess, where some really big decisions had to be made. And that's when I started my journey, I guess, and what brought me back to swimming again.
Yeah. So that was the start, but I suppose was it the focus to go swimming, or was it just like, I just need to be away, I just need to be near the sea, you know,
You just hit the nail on the head. It was the strangest thing. It was just a pull. It was just a pull to come back, and there wasn't even so much thought put into the process. I just knew I had to be near it. And I kind of thought, well, if we make that decision, at least, and we'll let all the other cards fall as they may. You know, I've always been a bit of a risk taker. I don't mind too much sort of closing my eyes and jumping and going for it. But we had the children to take into consideration as well. And both my children are now diagnosed with autism. So, you know, having the right environment for them is just crucial. And as long as they're okay, then we will be okay. And that was the sort of the decision. That was the main decision, that we wanted to just be by the water, whether that was through an Ayr or Fife or England. You know, we really just threw it open amount. Doesn't really matter where we go as long as we're near the water. But I did stay in Fife for maybe about 2 or 3 years when I was younger. So I have got a bit of an idea of how beautiful it was, and I'm quite familiar with the area. So this was our first port of call, and we just went for it. And it took there was a couple of wee bumps in the road. You know, we didn't move to Fife and stay there. We moved to Fife and then seen the coast and all its beauty and decided, oh, there's actually a nicer bit just further along the road here, and moved again. And now we found the beach and the coast and the house and everything that we like, and that's it for us now. But, you know, coming through here for the water was ultimately, I say it was for the children. Truth be told, it wasn't really. It was for me. Ultimately, I knew that I had to get back to the water. I knew that I would feel safe there, and it would help me be the best version of myself that I possibly could be, especially after all my rehabilitation. And if I was the best version of myself as I could be, then I was going to be a better mum for my kids, better wife for my husband, So it all just kind of fell into place, really. And it was really the best thing I could have done for them. They've really come on leaps and bounds. It's hard to put into words the progress that they've made, from coming through and being out of routine and not having any friends and having social difficulties, to going in November, December with their swimming costumes on into the water and snorkeling at 9 years old. You know, this girl, my daughter, was non-verbal at one point. She was so scared and so timid and really couldn't string a sentence together. And here she is out with the new Swans, advising them on what to expect when you first walk into the water and how long it takes your body to acclimatise, and, you know, make sure you've got your gloves on properly, and just chit-chatting away. So it's really given her a huge amount of confidence, and has helped her in so many different ways, as well as my son as well.
Yeah. So if you could have, like, it sounds hard to pitch this, so I'm going to like just throw a few things out there, but I was just thinking, with those moments, what sort of moment was it where you were like, right, I'm going to go for a cold swim? What were your best experiences like? When did the kids get in? You know, things like that. I just found fascinating.
I've never found there's nothing that's ever stopped me getting in the water, other than my husband, maybe, like holding me back. Because usually, you know, I've been down for a lunch break sometimes and I'm like, Ritchie, the water's gorgeous. And he's turned around and I'm like in my brand knickers running in, my wee tiny clothes stuck in the side of the sand. So it's getting in the water's never been a barrier for me. It really hasn't.
No.
Cold, I don't know if the cold water is more appealing to me sometimes. I think for me, I've got a very busy brain. I tend to overthink things. I can be quite anxious. Cold water shock seems to be the only thing for me that resets the button.
Yeah.
So I crave it now on a daily basis. If I don't get that reset button, I tend to start feeling agitated. So I guess in a way I've become a bit addicted to the feeling that I get getting into cold water. And I need it now, you know, to set my head straight. So there's never been any barriers for me to getting into the water. My best experiences, though, I have to say, have probably been some with the Swans, obviously, which I'll come on and talk about in a wee bit, but also some friends who have been wanting to do it for a really, really long time, who have maybe just needed a wee bit of encouragement or a wee bit of company to do it with. Going out with my daughter and snorkeling under the water and taking some really beautiful videos of her, picking up stuff underneath the water. My mum sat and watched me do this every day for a year and a half before she decided to take the plunge, and she goes in every day now, which has helped her immensely. She's got ME and various different things, and my husband as well now. It's taken him 2 years to get in. He's going to be have a harder nut to crack, but yep, he's in there now and he's going for it. So these are just really special moments, I guess, for me, because it just would never have happened unless I'd have been there and been part of the journey with them, you know.
And that reset button, it's come up in other chats as well. I mean, when we did the chat with Team Bits Missing, who were a team of amputees that are trying to break the record and get across the Northern Channel, one of the team members, she's a psychiatrist, and she was explaining that it's a bit of horrific practice, really, but there was science behind it. Back in the 1920s or whatever, forcing people in ice baths when they were suffering from mental health problems was like common practice. So I know I'm not suggesting that that's anything that we should do, but there is method behind that kind of madness. You know, that it does reset your brain, and if you gravitate towards it, I think that's like a nice thing, you know.
I think for me, I don't know whether it was you and I that discussed this, Scott, or whether it was Cuddy and I that were discussing this, but there was a really good analogy about, you know, obviously, I had a chat with my GP about, you know, how can it help? Am I going to be okay getting in here with certain heart conditions? Am I giving people the right advice with physical ailments and mental issues, I guess, that, you know, like a bit of anxiety or a bit of depression? And I really wanted to just have a chat with my doctor, due diligence really, to make sure I was giving the best advice. And she's actually started referring some patients over who have got things like ME, MS, depression, anxiety, PTSD. And, you know, we were talking about how it works in terms of, when I'm anxious, I always go into fight or flight. Everybody will be the same to a greater or lesser degree. I struggle to manage that I go one extreme to the other. If there's been any trauma in your life, you tend to face anxiety with a huge amount of fear.
Yeah.
So when you go into the water, your body's experiencing that same fear, but you're in complete control of it. So you're monitoring it, you're actually measuring that, and you're putting yourself into that fight or flight modes. But because you're controlling yourself going into the water, you're able to manage where your head goes with it.
Yeah.
So, and the more you do that and the more you practice that, you can then sort of, hopefully that spills out to real experiences of fear and things that would maybe trigger anxiety out with being in the water. And I've found that a real massive help for me, you know, getting in, because you do, when you first go into the water, you're like, oh, and you're terrified, and, you know, it brings up all these emotions for you. But you're in control and you're managing it, and you've actively put yourself into that scenario. So it's much easier for you to manage and much easier for you to talk yourself down, and go through it with a sense of calm and getting to that nice point 100%. At the end of it where actually this is really lovely and there was nothing to be scared of after all. So being able to kind of adapt that into your real life, especially if you do suffer from anxiety like I do, it's just been amazing. There's not really anything else that's had big impact like that.
Yeah.
You know, changing behaviours and retraining the way that you think.
Yeah, I think it's a tool that I am definitely using as part of doing some of the life coaching that I do. And those tolerance levels that you talk about, where you know, if you're exposed to trauma and you've got that smaller window and you're more likely to get triggered and all that kind of stuff, you can practice those sort of trigger situations, and it can really help if you start to recognize your own triggers, to sort of like be able to breathe into it, accept feelings, let them sit there comfortably and deal with them, rather than what I used to do a lot was push things away. When you go cold water swimming, you can't really push that away. You just work through it, don't you? You sit there, you know you're anxious, and certainly me getting up to go, I still feel that sort of like, oh, do I want to do this, and that knot of nervousness in my stomach sometimes. I don't know if you feel that, but yeah, for me, I can working through that is a really good thing.
Yep, I think that's certainly been my experience anyway. That's probably been the thing that's affected me the most, and the sense of, I don't know, I feel a wee bit like a superhero when I come out the water. I don't know if anyone else feels like that. Yeah. But my shorty wetsuit was a wee bit of my wee cape when I came out after, when I first started it, and you've got all these folk looking at you and going, you're absolutely bonkers. And you're like, yeah, you know, and you're really proud of it. You know, people think I'm a bit bonkers anyway, but being able to walk out ice cold water in December with your swimming costume on, there's not a chance in this world I would have been walking about. And I used to have my jacket on right down to the water, you know, just in case anybody saw me. And now I could not care a jot. I really couldn't care less. I'm so happy just walking about, because it triggers conversations and people want to talk about it. And you know, whether it's to say that you're mental or whether it's to say that you're brave, or whether, you know, it's, and it,
so that's really interesting that you said earlier, didn't you, that you never had any problems getting in, but clearly like this sisterhood or whatever, the Swans, which we haven't really spoke about yet, but setting up the Swans and being around other people, has that been a big part of that, what you just described?
Yeah, that's been a bit of a phenomena. That's just completely grown arms and legs. It's been bizarre, and it came right in the nick of time as well, because it was round about the beginning of lockdown. Luckily, I live right on the beach and there's a huge amount of space. So, you know, we were able to go down and take a wee walk down the beach. My friend Karen had said to me, she comes from Helensburgh, she is hardcore. She's in every morning at 7:30, every day, all year round, in her cosy. And she was telling me this, and I was just like, my jaw was just dropped. I couldn't believe that she went in the water every day herself most of the time, because nobody was doing it at that point. So I said, Karen, I'd really love to do that with you. That sounds phenomenal. It was in February, I think. And so out we went, and I didn't have any boots or gloves. I just had, you know, leggings and a t-shirt, and it was painful. It was so painful, but the water was like glass the first day, and she really picked a great day for me to just be taken in by it all. And out with being in severe pain in my hands and feet, you know, I was buzzing when I came back out. So long story short, you know, I got quite evangelical about it. I got my boots and I got my gloves and started banging my wee drum, as you tend to do, don't you? Everybody gets told about it and everybody gets roped in, and family members and friends. And I think because the pandemic, everybody was feeling a bit, just a bit strange and a bit claustrophobic and a bit scared and feeling all these different emotions that, you know, you generally wouldn't feel in any other circumstance. And a few people thought, I'm going to go for this. You know, I don't think they would have done it unless they were in a pandemic. I think a lot of people had to hit a certain level with their mentality, desperation probably for most. And they thought, I really need to try something here to snap me out my funk. And I think today, so that was it. You know, we just went on and more people joined, and there was this camaraderie and all holding hands again into the water when things got a bit better. And some people hadn't had, you know, conversation with 3D people for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. So the feeling of being in the water, that elation that you get when you're in the water, plus the company of other people, plus the happiness that we were feeling, because a lot of people hadn't felt happy for a long time. And it's very difficult to be in the water and not feel absolutely delighted. So it was such a contrast to how people were feeling, and they all got evangelical about it, and they were sitting at like 1,000 members. I think 998 members now when I last looked today. So, and it's been a real saving grace. I've had so many people that have come to me. It's a lovely, you'll know it yourself, it's a lovely community anyway, and I've not met anybody yet in the swimming community that haven't been absolutely amazing, you know. I think people that go into water, whether it's a dooker or a swimmer or a plodder or whatever, something's kind of happened for them to take the plunge. You know, there seems to have either been a bit of trauma that's happened or loss, or there seems to have been something. There's always real depth to any swimmers that I've ever went with. I've always got amazing stories to tell. So, you know, the bonding that happens between the group as well is just lovely. I've made lifelong friends in a really short space of time. There's a lot of trust going on between them. It's never cliquey, because the people that join always seem to be the only one out of their circle that want to do it. So it's not like they turn up with 2 or 3 or 4 of their friends. They're the one person out their circle that's went, hi, do you mind if I join you? I don't really know anyone, you know. So everybody's in the same boat, and everybody's always so welcoming, and it really just has been an absolute life changer, game changer for me.
Yeah. I think you said a minute ago that to cut a long story short, you don't need to cut any of this too short tonight, just so you know. We want to give you that space to sort of like, you know, talk about stuff. So yeah.
Well, I mean, Swan Journey is just, I mean, that's the only reason I was kind of cutting a long story short there, was just over the months more and more people just joined. They just kind of attracted more attention. People were coming down to the beach, they were watching us. I managed to get a wee subcontract with a sailing club down in the beach. So it means now that if you are going in swimming, you can come out and have a nice wee hot shower after it, and the facilities and a cup of tea, which is nice. I kind of missed the process of getting changed outside. That was part and parcel of it for me for a while. You know, sitting there and trying to get your clothes on and not being able to feel your hands, and then sitting with your wee shivery bite and a cup of tea after it. But a lot of the ladies that do it are of a certain age, and some of them are, you know, just aren't happy getting changed outside the toilets in the car park, you know. So the sailing club's been a really good way to encourage people to swim all year round. A lot of people stop after the summer, whereas we're right on the beach. The sailing club is right on the beach, so you can come out the water, dry off a bit, heat up a tiny wee bit, and then go in for a hot shower. So there's been a lot of swans who have been swimming all year round now, which has been great.
Cool. No, but I mean, that's certainly like giving us a brilliant start. I'm looking forward to, like, one thing I'd like to hear from maybe in the second half is like some more about some of the people that have come down and benefited from, like, it just seems so infectious, the enthusiasm you've got and the story you've told of your own personal journey. I'm really interested in some of the people that have popped down, maybe been referred by your doctor, and sort of that. I've got so many puns going on in my head. Ripple effect, that ripple effect of supporting other people. Apologies, everybody. But yeah, I'm really interested in that. But I think, like, we're about 8 o'clock. So yeah, we're on for the sort of on schedule for the breakout rooms. So please, like, people, do turn your cameras on, have a chat with each other, tell each other where you're from. I'm going to go for pronunciations here, so I don't know if it's Shamuel. Welcome from the Kingdom of Israel and Palestine. That's a new location for us, and it's wonderful that you've joined us. So I'm sure the people in your room are looking to chat to you and understand why you're around and what's brought you here and stuff, because yeah, we can.
I swam there. My wife thought I was mad. It was.
They look almost tropical. Caribbean.
Absolutely.
It is. The sand was absolutely beautiful. Sarah says, my wife says, I'll never take you again because the weather was nice and we didn't get many midges, and I was loving it. So I was swimming in all the little streams. We found a little waterfall. We camped actually. We were camping on the edge, and I could just get up in the morning, run down to the beach, and jump in. It was fantastic.
Yeah. It's the right weather, makes it so more special.
So, but I did briefly get. I only briefly got to room 3. The other 2 rooms, they were definitely Loch Lomond focused, which was nice. Well, only the snippets that I was in there, so I'm not sure how it went in your room, Amy, and stuff. Was it all good?
Yeah, it was just kind of asking everybody what their experience in the wee journey's been so far. And Sharon, who I've known for over 25 years now, it's Marnie as well. They've been going through to Loch Lomond. They've been meeting up together and going through there and doing it on Duck Bay Marina as well. I think they're doing it through there sometimes. And just some other places. Diane's part of the Swans. She lives in Fruki a wee bit further along. But oh no, St Andrews. Is it near St Andrews? St Andrews is a lovely place to swim.
Right.
And that can be quite daunting when the waves are high, but there's some really beautiful places in St Andrews to swim as well.
Well, I did forget. I just mentioned this story. I'll just mention it quickly because I just mentioned it in one of the rooms. I forget that there was a couple of incidents that led to the charity forming, and one of them was definitely in Loch Lomond, and it was when I did the Great the Great Scottish Swim. Best get that right.
Yes.
And that was in Loch Lomond from the shores at Balloch. I remember there was I was with a couple of guys and we bumped into Kerry-Ann Payne in the car park, and Kerry-Ann Payne was the Olympic medalist for open water swimming. You probably see her around on some of the open water swimming sites and things like that. But she was giving an introductory chat, but we call her in the car park, and one of the lads was like, "What, have you got any tips for the race and stuff like that?" And she was like, yeah. And she said, when you get halfway around, he was like, yeah. And you went, stop, lay on your back, take your goggles off, float around, like look, take it all in. Like, you're swimming in one of the most beautiful spots in the world. Why on earth would you swim for a time? You can, so by all means, like, have a bit of a workout with it, but I wouldn't get time obsessed swimming here. It's like, when are you gonna get a chance to come back and swim? If you are, fair enough, but if you're not, like, you've got to take this in like properly. And it really resonated with me because at that point I was this was probably about 8 years ago. I was doing quite a bit of triathlon training and things like that. And I was getting in the water and training and getting out without fully appreciating, like, nothing wrong with training swims. I think they're brilliant for mental health and everything, but it's nice to mix it up with the other kind of stuff and absorb yourself and really connect with the nature and stuff. So yeah, it sort of resonated with me. But yeah, how was it in room 3 as well, Rachel? I didn't really get in there very long.
Yeah, we're all good. We're just John and I and Shamal were having a little chat about what's going on, mostly about around Leven where Amy is, because John swims there, although hasn't done for a little while. So we're talking about getting back into it and the other options you've got around there. I think there's so many options for getting in the water in that area. So yeah, it's kind of, we just had a general chat about swimming in that area. And Shamal was telling us that he was interested from the social side of things, from the social kind of social work side of things. So yeah, it's quite
cool. Well, yeah, if we open things up for questions, like I say, I at some point I'd like a couple of those examples, those people I talked about from the GP referrals and stuff like that. But I don't know if other people have got any questions for now. And Paul, I don't know if you can just lead this bit, just because I do want to just pop the links in for the charity into the chat, and I'll be a little bit distracted while I'm doing that. There's not many links, but One of them is, I'll pop the donate button in. We don't ask for donations for this. They are totally free. If you feel it's worth it, it does cost us a little bit of money to put these on, in terms of like the Zoom licenses and all that kind of stuff, but it's not an extortionate amount of money. But we like people to have the option to donate for the wider stuff that we're going to be doing, and it helps us to grow the charity. So if you think it's worth like £1 or whatever, you can put in there, great. If don't worry about it though, because it's the charity is always going to be that anything that we put on, it's free at the point of contact, if that makes sense. And we're not like there to hound people for donations either. Our swimming hats, I'll put a link into those as well. They're the only bits of merchandise we've got so far. Thank you, Rachel, for purchasing one. I'm loving it. I'm waiting to see a picture of you with one on.
It's already been on a video. Did you not?
Yes,
see?
it has. I saw it. Scott, you're behind the times.
Right, I'm gonna have to go back.
Get back.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. So that's great.
It's the one where I'm having a brunch with my mates when I cooked up bacon sandwiches.
I haven't watched it all yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm wearing it on that one, I think.
Oh, I did. I saw that one. I saw that one. That was a great one. They all are.
Also, you've all seen the Bluetonic hats in wild cooking sense as well. So that's great. But I'll pop them in. Obviously they are a little bit more expensive. I think they cost us about £3.50. Then we package them on, so they're on at £9.90 or something like that. So if you can purchase one, any profit that we get from that goes back into the charity and stuff. So I'll just pop some links on and stuff like that. But yeah, if we just want to ask any questions to Amy, I think now would be a good time to sort of do that.
Can I firstly say, Amy, your television screensavers absolutely spot on with the underwater theme. Absolutely cracking. I don't really notice that, it's just me, but yeah, really, really good. So while Scott's doing the donate buttons or anything like that, it's great to have a chat. Me and Scott, like I said, in our little breakout room, have been to Northern Ireland with one of our speakers from previous chats. So we're just invited ourselves to Scotland as well, Amy. So we'll be finding a B&B near you, perhaps next year or later on this year, to come and have a swim with you guys. I think we're long overdue going to see Rachel. Yeah, so we try and get out and about wherever we can. Are there any questions? I'll open up the rooms. If anybody wants to ask Amy a question, just shout out.
Yep, I'll jump in because I need to go. My dog's barking at me. But yeah, seawater versus freshwater.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this was actually, I don't have a huge amount of experience swimming in freshwater, and it was really interesting. It was actually Rachel that very kindly came to swim with the Swans and gave us an amazing talk about lots of different things. But she told us a lot of different things about the difference between it. You might want to actually take over here. You've got more experience in it, Rachel, but she said that the difference that she noticed the most was the buoyancy levels. So whereas in the sea, you can feel quite safe because your natural buoyancy levels kind of like maybe an inch above the, the water line. When you go into calm waters like lochs or whatever, it's kind of there. So you can feel a bit heavier and a bit kind of, yeah, it seems it's not quite the same. You don't feel quite as safe in lakes and lochs as you do when you're in the sea. But it's something I really need to remedy this year and get out to more lochs and lakes. I've just not done enough of it. Are you able to give her a bit of advice on this, Rachel?
Well, what I was asking actually was like for the health benefits, like salt water versus fresh water.
Okay.
I think we had, sorry, Amy, Alan, who did some of the poems last week from a health point of view, because I think I was talking in our group that we haven't got, we're not lucky enough to have lots of lochs and beaches around us, so we swim in a lot of rivers and ponds and things like that. And Alan was saying, always know what's upstream, just in case you're swimming in anything that's not very nice. He said always swim in water that's above your knee and flowing fast, so then you won't get a possibility of Wirrell's disease, which is the rat wee in the water. So there's all those things, yeah, just to really put you off. But I think deep ponds and rivers are fine. And Rachel, I think you are the expert, so please take over. Nice dog.
Yeah, Cookie's just come to say hi.
Mine's just left me.
Yeah, Marnie was just asking about health benefits, the difference between the swimming in the ocean and swimming in things like lakes and lochs and things. Do you have much experience in the difference?
Not really. No, I don't have any technical knowledge about health benefits and stuff. Only kind of anecdotal about how you feel yourself. But I'm sure there is some. There's bound to be some research out there. I guess it'd be more looking at things like the Japanese, where the Japanese, and also in New Zealand, where they go into onsens or hot springs. There will be when Japan is like an entire industry around the particular minerals that are in a specific place. So when you go into a particular town in Japan, it will be, this is the this town is famous for rejuvenating water, or this one helps you with aches and pains, or there's a huge industry around it. But as for straight up between whether or not it's fresh water or salt water, I don't know what the benefits would be there, apart from maybe salt and skin.
That's the only thing that I was going to say, you know, from our experience, certainly with swimming in the sea and things like that, there's been a huge improvement. A lot of people who have got skin ailments and things like that, I found the salt water's been massively helpful. But again, I don't have the experience in the lochs, which is ridiculous, and wanted to remedy that. But
yeah, come through.
Yeah, I will. It's a date.
I've got to go. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye, Marnie. Take care.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Is there anybody else got any questions?
Are you swimming any distances now, Amy, or are you just a bobber? Or are you?
I'm a bobber. I'm a bobber. I'm in every day, but I'm a bobber. I don't tend to. I swim more in the summertime. I do swim in the summertime, and when the water's calm and things. It was funny, actually. I went out for the first time the other day with the early morning hardcore ladies who don't use the sailing club. They're in at 7:30 when it's dark, you know, and they're swimmers, and they swim. They swim, and they're out, and they're swimming distances, and they're back. So I thought I would be really clever and tag along, thinking I could keep up with them, and I couldn't. So I had to leave the water early, and it was a completely different experience. It's something I want to get better at. I did feel good in the water. It obviously heats you up when you're swimming and moving about as well. But for me at the moment, a lot of it is just getting myself immersed into the cold water and bobbing about. Quite often I'll take out new people if they want to try it for the first time. So it's not always convenient to go for a big swim. You know, I want to keep an eye on them and make sure that they're okay and that everybody's safe. But swimming in the water, swimming in the sea certainly comes with its challenges. But if I was to go into lochs and lakes, I think it would probably be a different story. I think you would have far more scope to do it in those types of waters, you know, but not where I am. No. What about yourself? I mean, what's everybody else's experience with that? Is
100% bobber for me. I used to swim. I used to be a lifeguard as a young man, and so I can swim. But I think, like you, I do a lot of camping in the summer, so always find the sea there. So I do a swim in that, but no great lengths or times. So no, I just think the immersion for me is great.
Yeah, I do a lot of snorkeling with my daughter, I have to say. We do cover quite a lot of distance. We don't realise we're doing it, but we do actually cover quite a bit of distance underwater when we're snorkeling and things. So, but that is very much in the summer months. We just can't handle the temperature on our heads. They're now going under the water. But yeah, and I think it's something that's probably I could benefit a lot from swimming. I could certainly be doing with the exercise, but for now I'm quite happy just getting into the cold water. That does it for me. You know, I don't feel the need to do anything over and above that when I'm in the water.
No. In our little breakout room, I think Claire was saying she's been, I think it was her husband, present for a meditation and some health retreat on Loch Lomond. And I was saying in there that we do a lot of work with psychologists with the young people we work with, and about the meditation and the deep breathing and how that is really, really good for you. And I think that's something that's associated with the swimming, because when you walk into that cold water, you have to breathe, you have to concentrate on that deep breathing, as you said it, the reset button, which I think is fantastic. And whatever you do in there is great just to get in. So if you can never get into the water, get the deep breathing.
I think a lot of people underestimate the technique as well, don't they? They think they just get in the water, but actually there's a bit of it's really, really important to be able to control your breathing, because it just takes like one wee wave to knock you, come into your face or whatever, and it really knocks the wind out you, especially in these temperatures. It's something that you really need to be quite good at and practice and take your time with, especially if you're new. There's a lot of people I've seen going in and they just dive in, and my heart's always in my mouth, but
do you do a bit of a prep talk with the Swans before you go in? Or
something I've started doing recently. That's what I was saying. When I do a solo swim, if I'm down there and I'm on a solo swim or I'm a solo duker or whatever, then I'll just sit and I'll listen to a couple of mantras for maybe 10-15 minutes, just get my breathing in tow, and then head into the water. And just as I was about to start it the other day, another swan came in and asked if she could join me. So the both of us done it together, and it was actually a really lovely experience. So she'd mentioned, like, you should maybe open this up and see if anybody else fancied doing it. And the response was great, and everybody came round, and we had breathing exercises and listening to the mantras before we went in, and the sun just came out spectacularly behind the clouds just as the mantra started, and it was quite special. So it's something that I'm going to encourage more of.
Yeah.
It can't do us any harm. I mean, you're talking well-being, meditation, breathing exercises.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say. Last year I got quite into my yoga and meditation as part of that. We used to do 10-15 meditation, 10 or 15 minutes meditation afterwards. So it sounds fantastic if you're doing that as well. Yeah, great. That's brilliant.
I think there's a couple of groups actually. We've done that a few times, held into the new moon. We've done that a few times, yeah. Done a bit of skinny dipping as well. Sharon, I know that Sharon's in a group as well through in Loch Lomond, and I think they practice quite a lot of that. If they want to, the option's there to come out and do a bit of meditation and stuff after it, and they've really seen the benefits as well. It all just falls quite organically into the whole thing, doesn't it?
100%.
I'll maybe do it after the swim, though. I'm doing it before we go in for the swim, and by the time we're finished the meditation, we're all like, want to go for a sleep, and you don't really feel like getting into the icy waters, But yeah, so that's maybe a wee hint and tip I'll take for the next session. It might actually lead me quite nicely onto some of the things that Scott was talking about with people who have been going in and been referred. So I'll just touch on this a wee bit because I don't have a huge amount of lots of examples of it, but my GP had started referring people over to me, Paul, and she'd asked, there was a lot of patients who had suffered from depression or anxiety, and would I be okay if she put them in touch with me? A lot of them suffered from social anxiety, haven't been in pandemic and haven't been in touch with people for a long, long time. Just, really were quite scared to come and talk to other people. So a lot of the sessions I've been doing have been one-to-one sessions with people who maybe suffer from social anxiety, and slowly but surely I've maybe introduced another one or another two swans to come along while we've been in swimming. And it's really made quite a monumental difference to those people. I find those are probably the people that I've seen the biggest changes with. But we also have people who have got ME. I don't want to name any names. If anybody has ME and they want to talk about it or feel that they can add anything with the benefits they felt from it. But certainly, my mum and I asked her permission if she minded me just mentioning her name. There's some days she can't even lift her head off the pillow. Weeks at a time sometimes, and she'll really need to just be still, let alone going into the water. She was terrified that would just knock her for 6 months. And as she get in, she kind of bit the bullet and get in, and she's in there, once a week now in her swimming costume, and she says it just, the amount of energy that she has compared to what she used to, she's just, it's indescribable. You wouldn't believe it unless you'd seen it with your own eyes. So there must be something in it. There's got to be something there that really, is fundamentally helping at that level, because there was nothing that was working for my mum before, not a thing.
That's amazing. That really is amazing. On one of our early chats, we had a lady, and she spoke to us quite openly and candidly about how she was really struggling. She was an ex-addict, and she suffered real deep depression. And I think she said that, the medication that doctors were giving me weren't working. I was becoming as addicted to them as I was to anything else. And actually the cold water swimming was the thing that she did. It was just fantastic to hear these stories of, real people. You read them in the magazines, but to actually talk to these people and interact with them is fantastic. So yeah.
And that's it. And that's the proof in the pudding, really. You can sit and read watch as many documentaries and read as many essays as you want, but ultimately the proof is in the pudding. And if you've got people coming to you saying, I've suffered with fibromyalgia for 20 years and I'm out swimming every week now. If you've got people who suffer from depression and, you know, they're out there and they're meeting up with folk and having cups of tea and a wee cake after it and just being able to have a normal conversation with like-minded people. There's more needs to be done, I think, about, you know, exposing that and giving it a wee bit of exposure to people who maybe suffer from different health ailments. There's just not enough proof, I think. It's just because I think it's just kind of taken off, isn't it? This swimming is just, you know, it's very much sort of taken off since the pandemic. And I think it's going to take another wee while before people really sit up and pay attention and go, actually, this really is benefiting so many people. And then maybe some research will be done into it. But for now, it's just a case of suck it and see in it. Just get in the water, you'll feel better.
Yeah, I think the media like to tell, I suppose they're doing everything, but tell the horror stories of the people that have been in near misses or things like that. But the community of swimmers always say about the benefits, and that's slowly getting out there. So yeah, it is really, really good.
I find it really interesting that it's like, it sounds like just you've probably got a really good relationship with your GP, and that might have been a catalyst for it happening there. So to spread that kind of way of working, which I find really special, like, you know, in England, like where my GPs, I never see the same doctor. So, you know, I would have that conversation and it would just be lost a lot of the time. So I might be wrong there. You might not have a good relationship with your GP. It might have just been a thing. But what was it, something around that, do you think?
Well, it's kind of small. Wearasty is quite a small place. People tend to know who you are, you know, so it's not quite, you get the benefit, the pros and cons that come with that. But you know, my GP is just she's a doer, she's a real doer. She wants to get things done. She's still at that stage in her career where she really wants to genuinely help people and look outside the box and look at alternative methods, and doesn't want to just stick a plaster on things. So she was just she gave me just a bit of space to talk, which I don't need a huge amount of encouragement with, especially talking about this. A bit like yourself. I mean, Scott, you've created this charity for exactly the same motivational reasons. You know, the minute that you see that it's helping someone, you want to spread it. You want to help other people.
100%.
So it's just about keeping that in mind. And I think if we all just do a little bit of that along the way, then it might make a small impact and it'll just build from there, you know. But she was great, she was. She just gave me the chance to talk.
I didn't realise Diane was on here. Hi, Diane.
We've got some swans on here.
We're going to take it. Basically, I was just going to say and congratulate Amy. I mean, we weren't referred to her through her doctor. Diane and I were walking the coastal path one day, and there she is in all her glory at the temple, about to go in the water. Us two as strangers passing by, and her infectious, friendly personality. She's chatting, telling us all about it. And that's us for Diane and I. Now when we go on holiday, we're looking at rivers, we're looking at new sea swims. It's added a new dimension to our life, Diane, hasn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've still got to progress from wetsuit into skins though.
Oh, I've done that now.
I've not done that.
Not necessarily. I think as long as you're getting in, I think there's a bit of a stigma attached to this, isn't it? It's whether you do skins or whether you do wetsuits.
Yeah, there is a wee bit of elitist feel about it, that if you're a true swimmer, then you wear your swimsuit just. But I have
if you're in the water,
and I've in the water, that's it, summer, but back to wetsuit now, Amy. And Amy done the meditation and her friend done the new moon stuff for us the other day, Amy, and it was amazing. We couldn't actually get in the sea at that point, Amy, could we? It was so wild.
Too high. Yeah, that's the only downside to the sea swimming, is that sometimes the waves are humongous. It's not often I'll back out from a swim, but we had to back out that day. Only initially though. We did end up winning after it, didn't we, when they calmed down ever so slightly.
So she is fantastic, Amy. Yeah.
Thank you. Takes one to know one, Claire.
That's good.
Scott, you mentioned the GPs and whether or not they are able to refer and stuff. But I spoke to somebody at the weekend who runs mental health swims local to us through the mental health swims group, and they are now getting GP referrals.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite interesting. She said, you know, that seems like that sounds like a good step in the right direction. But yeah, it's the first I'd heard that actually they are referring to voluntary groups and to get people interested.
So are the mental health swims voluntary groups then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone volunteers to do some training. I had to look into it to see what she must have had to do. Seems that you get some a briefing about, or you learn about risk assessments, about some basic rescue techniques, I think, and there's a couple of other bits. But on the website, it's all detailed out. It doesn't seem very complicated at all.
No.
You just said, I'd quite like to set one up, and then you give a location. They look to see if they've got a gap. So
yeah,
I can see the person I interviewed the other day, called Rachel, she does one at Shawford Lock, which is by Winchester, and I can see on their map there's one by Bournemouth. And I think their commitment for the volunteer is maybe once a month or something like that. They do once a month, a Saturday morning or something, and then they just feed them into local swim groups.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting. And their big thing is to have this big pink pirate flag, so that anybody that's wanting to join it, you don't need to sign up beforehand. I don't think. You just turn up, and if the person who's got the pink pirate flag is the organizer, so then there's not the worry about, I want to get in, but who do I speak to? And the worry of speaking to the wrong person is the person with a gigantic pink flag with the skull and crossbones on it. I thought that's quite interesting and very open.
You would think, though, it would add a lot of pressure on the organizer. Do they have to be trained, Rachel, to
They do, apart from the risk assessment stuff and and a bit about, I think, rescue techniques, they also do, I'm guessing, a fairly freely available mental health in sports course. So it's only,
is that the online one?
Yeah, I think so. They're not offering any kind of mental health support, more just support to take part in an activity. It's not, there's no, so it does underline in there as volunteers that no matter what your extra background might be, and it could be that you are, it might be that you're working within social science, it might be that you are an open water coach, but equally it could just be that you're passionate about it, and it's a meeting of like-minded people. So it's just supposed to be an open doors, anybody can come along. I don't know what the deal is with requiring or the provision of lifeguards. I know that where Rach organised hers, the parish council, because they do it in this small weir pond, not weir pond, it's where a little tiny weir flushes through and the river continues down. There's some dog steps. It's a really easy place to dip, and that can have a little whiz around. It's a bit like, it looks a little bit like one of those whirlpool pools at places like Butlins. That's the only way I can really describe it, that you could actually, in such a small space, you could have so much activity going on, and you could pretty much stand up all the way around it. But the parish council were not keen on it until they said, look, we're insured, which I think the insurance comes with the group anyway, and we'll put up a lifeguard. And I think if you need to have a lifeguard, I think that Mental Health Swims pays for that lifeguard. I'm not really quite sure. I haven't really looked too far into it, but I just thought it's really, I was struck by the fact that she said they're now getting referrals, GP referrals, and anybody can come along and self-refer. You don't need to be a swimmer. It's super open. And so it is something I'm just going to take a little bit more of a look into. But I think the website is mentalhealthswims.co.uk.
Right, I need to have a look at that.
And they've got an Instagram page that they put stuff up on.
It might be that we don't have much of a role to play in that. It sounds like it's all geared up. It's just like if we're seeing people and on these chats, it's nice to sort of post to it or whatever.
Yeah,
because it's no point creating a role for the charity's sake, if you know what I mean, or whatever. But yeah, certainly
worth looking into to see what it is then, what their provision is, because at maybe once a month, that might be enough to kind of get an idea that you like it, but that's not really enough to to nurture the hobby or you know, to get the benefit, you know, once a month, feeling super great on a Saturday afternoon because you went in Saturday morning, knowing you've got another 4 weeks to wait. It's not really the same thing, is it?
And I've been doing a little bit of work down here provisionally with I work quite closely in my day job with like support services and stuff. So I'm in contact with a couple of youth workers, although there aren't really any youth workers anymore, even though lots of councils pretend they've got a youth service. The people that are like working in children's services settings, but in their spare time they're setting up youth work provision because that's what they're passionate about, what they used to do. And they've set this one particular group have set up a girls group, and when they've chatted to them about swimming, like barriers that you wouldn't think of, like the fact that they haven't got swimming costumes and they can't afford to go out and buy swimming costumes. Like, you know, even if they were to get referred, there's still quite a few barriers, never mind all this, like for younger girls, all the probably people seem to come to it later when they've lost a bit of inhibition or whatever it is. But yeah, we want to do something where we look at me working with those youth workers to empower those girls to go and join groups and things like that. It definitely links in with the mental health swimming. It's worth like looking at that at the same time. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I think it's worth also pointing out that where people might have the leggings, any kind of close fitting clothes is okay. We're not trying to swim 50 lengths of a pool. We're just trying to bob out in the water. So actually, if you've just got, you know, it seems almost every person in the country has a pair of leggings of some description.
Or leggings or whatever, yeah.
But they generally don't wear for anything other than mooching about the house or maybe doing a bit of strolling around the park. So actually, although we're talking about needing a swimming costume, you just need anything that's relatively close fitting and isn't going to encumber you in the water. So most people have got something that could fit that bill, even if it is a vest and t-shirt, a vest and leggings. You don't need to go out and buy a swimming costume over it. It's not necessary, but it needs to just be not.
But I think what they were doing was working through it with the young people. And the young people were like, first we'd go to a pool, and then it was like, well, I can't go to a pool because costumes, you know what I mean? But yeah, I know what you mean.
There's definitely a barrier to a pool, but it's not a barrier to going outdoors.
No,
I think there's less barriers to going outdoors because there's less rules. There's less rules around.
It's probably convincing the youth workers to go, just you be crazy, you lead them, and you come and get in and get a first session. Get them to watch you getting in, and laugh at you, and then we'll do something else from there, you know. So yeah, there's ways we can do it.
There's actually a lot. My mum, when she was younger, was involved in social work. She worked a lot with young offenders. She used to take them up to Ullapool, and they would stay there for maybe a week at a time with a few helpers. Right next, always near the water, because the water always brought out the best response in them. So whether they were kayaking or doing water sports or whatever, or just going in and you know, having a splash about. So I think, you know, there's so many different avenues and ways that people could benefit, different groups, different pockets of youngsters as well, I think could really benefit from it that's not been tapped into yet. But especially what Rachel was saying there with regards to what to wear, it's always the first question that I get asked. It is a barrier. I've noticed that because I've got about 8 wetsuits hanging outside. I never wear any of them, but I've just got them there in case anybody needs to borrow one, because that seems to be the biggest barrier for a lot of people that get in touch. They just don't know what to wear. They don't have the right gear or whatever, you know. So I think it's about letting people know, just get yourself in the water. Just get yourself in there, a pair of sannies, and that's all you need at first, you know.
And that's the hard bit when you work through the official streams, because Rachel was brilliant. She linked me in with SwimSafe, stuff like that, and like one of the top guys there, and had some really good conversations with him. But then when the expression of interest formed, so SwimSafe is something in England. I don't know if it exists in Scotland.
Yeah, there's a Scottish version, I think. I think Swim Scotland does. Yeah. I think it's all linked up because there's definitely one in Wales as well.
Now, if you want to be a provider of SwimSafe, say as a charity, obviously, like, there's only so much I can do as a swimming coach so it would be nice to get paid as a swim coach, but they're like, well, yeah, you can do that, and people do that, but you have to go out and get your own funding to then get yourself paid through the charity and all that kind of stuff. And some of the funding pots don't work. So I didn't want to mention the swimming hats again, but yeah. But basically, like with that, then on top of that, you've got to provide them with wetsuits. So then you've got to work out a way of either hiring wetsuits en masse. And really what SwimSafe will do is advertise your sessions for you and up that stuff and give you all the resources and train you, which is great. But all the add-on costs, if the venue wants to charge you to come on there, the lifeguard, all that kind of stuff is then on the charity, and you've got to provide that session free at the point of access. So it's...
Do you think that there's any room for manoeuvre on the wetsuit side of things? Because SwimSafe is all about not getting into the water when you're not prepared for it, and what to do if you do fall into the water when you were unprepared for it. So that's the whole premise of it, isn't it? So
well,
I would have thought there must be.
I thought as well, but even talking through, like to me, you've got to be able to swim the minimum distance of like 25 meters unaided to attend a SwimSafe session.
That's nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, because what they don't do is, sorry to we're digressing a bit. I hope you're still interested, guys.
I'm actually going to have to leave, guys, but thanks very much. Bye.
Love to meet you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
What they want, what people don't record in terms of drowning in England is that nobody asks the question to any parents or guardians of kids that have drowned. Could they swim, apart from newspapers? And when a newspaper asks, the family say yes, he was a strong swimmer. But who clarifies that the strength of that? You know, you could go back and potentially work out and look at data, but it doesn't give you names from people at schools of because it is reported, but it's just a percentage. And when I've looked at how they record, it's absolutely all over the place. So it's just a taboo subject. And yeah, SwimSafe and stuff looked really, really great, but they operate with constraints. And yeah, but what's great is they still say, just use our stuff and do your own thing. I get what you mean, but the RLSS and the Swim England will only operate in this way.
But I think that there could be something to say about minimum water temperature. So if the temperature is above 15 degrees is cold water, according to the experts. So at 16 degrees, surely we can operate without wetsuits if we wanted to. I think I would pin them on that. I might even ask him myself and just say, what's the deal with the wetsuit thing? Who swims in a wetsuit?
I haven't submitted an application yet because I don't want to submit an application that I know is just unrealistic at this stage for us. Unless I can find a funding pot that's gonna, help with stuff like that. So yeah. Amy, back to you again. We've digressed, but it's all inspired by you, which is nice.
No, not at all. No, I was just writing a wee message there because does anybody else have any other questions? Because I am going to have to go now.
Yeah,
and the children who have started screaming to bed. Their bedtime's 9 o'clock, so if it's 9 o'clock and I'm not there to take them through the routine, they get a bit leery, and nobody wants to be witness to that. Does anybody have any other questions at all? It's been so lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me and just letting me gab. I feel like I've just sat and gabbed for about half an hour about my favourite subject on the planet.
No, but
been great, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're